If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks very much for joining us on another wonderful Wednesday. It may not be wet and rainy outside, but boy, inside the heart, it's always bliss. Start things off with the good friends from the Cayman Heart Fund. And then at 1 p.m., good friends over at Hazard Management will join us for a bit of discussion. So please, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and truly is a privilege and an honor and a distinct pleasure to always sit here at this time of day and to feel the blessings as we welcome and hopefully extend a very warm Talk Today Radio Cayman. Welcome to all of our listeners and our guests in particular. And they say, if you go back to Mr. Bounderby, from the Dickens novel Hard Times, as he spoke to Lutton Pip, the heart was nothing more than a machine that produced, the necessary things to get the blood around the body so that you were alive and you could work. Well, if you think of what Monday is, the heart is that thing that allows us to enjoy the chocolate. And I'm told now flowers as well. Who knew? I thought it was just chocolate. But maybe the heart is more than that. It's filled with love. So the coordinator over at the Heart Fund, Miss Allison, thank you so much for joining us. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, always a pleasure, thank you.
I will just say hello to Miss Chloe Jackson, and as you sit and be an instructive part of the discussion, a pleasant good afternoon to you too, Miss Chloe.
Hello.
And of course, that ever-present, wonderful, engaging, endearing spirit of Miss Katie. That song, The Lady in Red, must have been written for you.
Oh, you're so kind, and it's so exciting to be here on your show. Thank you so much for having us.
Well, it's a pleasure, and thanks very much for always being amenable and for reaching out to us. I think as we look at heart health, Ms. Allison, the notion that for some of us, sometimes we feel a little broken hearted, a little upset because of something. We feel great joy at an accomplishment. It always seems to resonate within the heart. It tells us when things are right and tells us when things are better. But for the heart, where would I be?
Absolutely.
All right. So good afternoon again. And to think about it, the Heart Fund has been around for, what seems to be forever, but perhaps not even long enough. And given the great strides that we've made in that time, it's been instructive, indicative, and sort of very informative. So as we listen through you, we'll learn a lot more and ask a few questions.
Sure. Yeah, you're right. The Heart Fund, as non-profit organisations go in the Cayman Islands, is relatively young. The Cancer Society's been around for 25 years. We all know that Red Cross celebrated their 40th anniversary this year. But it was only 2007 that Miss Susie Soto founded the National Cardiovascular Charity for the island. So we're on our 15th anniversary now, but we're still relatively young. We're still a teenager. But that doesn't mean that we haven't done a lot in that time period. We have our core mission statement to improve the cardiovascular health of the people of the nation of the Cayman Islands, and we do that through three ways: we educate, we influence, and we support. And we're here to talk about the support side of things mainly today. We all know that Valentine's Day is coming up, and it's a time that we shower our loved ones with treats and show them how much they mean to us. And I can't think of a better way for the Heart Fund to show how much the people of the Cayman Islands mean to us by talking about the donation that we're about to make to the Georgetown Hospital of a new piece of life-saving equipment.
And that sort of support, Ms. Katie, as a director of the Heart Fund, it's beneficial that it will be for all of the country. Every single person who lives and works here, but even those who may be visiting for an extended period, or may, for some reason, a passing ship, or a seafaring nation, and there's somebody who has taken ill. The ship can pull into the nearest port. If we have additional resources within our healthcare sector, that is another, sort of feather in our cap, as it were. Pulls on our heartstrings sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. This is why it's so critical that we do receive the support from those that are able to help us. We are 100% funded by donation, and we take everything that we are given, and we are very appreciative of it, of course, but when it can result in things like this donation, which we're going to talk about today, you can see that the gift is one that will continue to be used here to save lives, because as we know, cardiovascular disease is unfortunately our number one killer here.
Yeah. And it speaks similarly to statistics across the Western world, as it were. But Ms. Allison, when we think of a donation like this, and that whether it's from one corporate or individual benefactor, or whether as a result of a fundraising initiative, and we bought, $1 for a chance to pop the balloon, for instance, and win a prize donated by one of our corporate sponsors, that contribution collectively makes a very, very significant impact. So we work together.
Well, it's always the way. We're obviously incredibly grateful for all the donations that we receive as a non-profit organisation, and whether people are giving $1 or $10,000, it all adds up. And what we can do is put all that money together collectively and best serve the community, work with the local organisations to see where the need is and try and meet that need as best we can. I mean, it does remind me of, $1 to one person could mean more than the $10,000 to the rich person. I'm a great fan of antiques and antique coins. I like wearing I think I'm wearing a Pegasus treasure coin around my neck right now, and I'm really fascinated in the widow's mite and the story of that. When Jesus said, this means more because she's given everything she has.
No sound of the clanging in the tray, the show.
Yeah,
so there's somewhere. So.
People should never think that just by giving $1 or just by giving a few dollars that they're not massively contributing to the cause. They are.
And I like that. I like the fact that as Miss Olive Miller used to talk about, the poor man's millions, as it were. And if we think, well, that $1 won't make a difference, that 50 cents, but if you give that lovingly, genuinely, generously, that one, when multiplied by the ones of many others, will be different. Will be significant. It
shows what we can do as a community. When organisations do coin drives, when they ask for small change, it's small change, but together it can make a big difference to people. And I think that's something that we've always got to remember.
All right, we're going to pause quickly and take our first break. And when we come back, let's continue the discussion. Could we ask through you, this donation, what is it? How does it work and why? We're not going to speak as if we're physicians in some soap opera. We're not going to pretend that we know more than what we're saying, but I want to listen and learn. And not just what it is, but why that particular one at this time, and speak a little bit more about it, because I think it shows what we can do as a community. And I know there are some very beautiful places. I love the screensaver that comes up. I don't like the fact that I can't change certain settings and turn off my location. I know where I'm at. I'm at my desk. I don't need you to tell me. But there's beautiful screensavers, and there was, if my French isn't good, Mont Saint-Michel up in France. There was one yesterday with a lighthouse, and I thought, look at that. It made my heart feel good. Well, let's make our heart feel even better with the equipment. All right, we're going to pause and take a break, and if you want to ask a question, you want to share something, the phone lines are always available. I think DJ Lynn, Susan, Joel, Wilson, all, Carl and the rest of them will tell you that whenever it's not them that doing the road for us, they're so much happier. But today is Lynn's turn, so let's keep his company, huh? I mean, who wouldn't want to hear that handsome fella smile through the phone? All right, stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
Thinking of getting a hybrid but don't know much about them? Vamp Motors has 3 great reasons why you should own the Toyota CHR. Hybrid save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries while being driven. So there's no need to plug in your hybrid, making it both economical and fun to drive. And you don't have to replace your battery every 2 years. The CHR Hybrid is reliable, providing up to 1 million kilometers on the same battery and engine. Oh, and now you can save $2,000 off the Toyota CHR, starting at only $33,500.
That's way more than 3 reasons.
True, but the best one is that it's on sale now. Test drive the Toyota CHR today at Vant Motors, Walkers Road, while stocks last.
For the record.
For information that matters to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you.
For the record.
Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM for Cayman's Straight Talk Morning Show. For the record.
I invite you to join me for the record. You are invited to be a part of this interesting and informative show. Embrace the opportunity to dialogue with your legislators, policymakers, and those charged with policy implementation.
For the record. Brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors.
Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks so much for joining us as we truly appreciate the wonderful charitable organizations, the great spirit of giving, and even thanksgiving that permeates our society, and the wonderful volunteers that draw alongside. And as we talk, to our friends at the Heart Fund about the sort of combined efforts of the community in collaboration with the Cayman Heart Fund, well, Miss Alison Olaru, almost. Is that how we would say it if I had a few whiskeys under my belt?
Yeah, Olaru. It's actually it's a Romanian surname.
Yeah.
It just means Potter, like Harry Potter. In Romania, it's the people that make the plagues. Which
Potter.
my daughter is now very excited about because she's got into Harry Potter.
Okay. I think of pottery sometimes, and whether it's potted clay or whether it's actual, putting your hand in the mud, as it were.
Yeah.
First time I did that, it was cold and messy, and I thought, I don't like this. And then I made a particular food item and just put your hands in it. Right, Miss Katie?
Oh, absolutely. I was out at the Visual Arts Society this past weekend watching them throw pots on a wheel, and I thought, I want to play with that clay.
The first time I threw pots on a wheel, and they said, you're not supposed to break them. That's not what they meant. We made those. I thought you said throw the pots on a wheel, and I was there. I thought it was an aggression training session.
That could be a form of therapy, I think.
It worked
Making
well.
pots could be a form of therapy, and breaking them too.
Breaking them too. I had good fun doing it. Wasn't anyway, just kidding. But Chloe Jackson joins us together with Miss Katie. And as we were going into the break, we were asking about this particular donation because, and if we could equally ask about, I remember, and most of us would know the AEDs, but I think too to the training sessions of the CPR, how to even operate the AED. But this donation, why this one? Why now? And
yeah, so we were very fortunate. The Cayman Heart Fund was approached by a local trust that wanted to donate to a charity. So we received a large donation, and we combined efforts between that donation, some of the funds already raised from the community for the Cayman Heart Fund, and our paediatric program, because the piece of equipment we're donating can be used for adults and children. We combined efforts because we asked Georgetown Hospital if they were in need of anything. Because we've typically donated a piece of equipment every few years. And this was something that they had, if I can pronounce the equipment correctly, because I'm not a physician or from a medical background, but it's an esophageal Doppler monitor for their critical care unit. They had one of these machines, but it had become obsolete. And so they really needed a new one. So, we all know that times are tough right now. public health and the Health Service Authority, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. We wanted to find a way that we could really benefit the people of the Cayman Islands in the long term. And this piece of equipment is used, I believe, to monitor patients' blood flow to assess their cardiac function. So when people have had surgery or colossal blood loss and the nurses need to care for them, this piece of equipment helps them do that better, so that patients can leave hospital quicker and generally their recovery is more successful and quicker. So we're hoping, I can't speak for the Health Services Authority obviously, but obviously leads to better outcomes for the patient. Hopefully people not staying in hospital so longer has an impact on the bottom line. And overall is really great for the community. And
I think too, sometimes, just generally speaking, any organisation that feels it has another tool, another resource, a piece of equipment, the mechanic who always thought, having this particular wrench, even though I may not use it all the time, would be good just in case. But in this instance, this is something that would be used frequently. It would give the physicians a greater sense of comfort. But even patients, Ms. Katie, hey, when I go there, increasingly, as a small community, as a small, nation, we have more and more resources at our disposal, make the care, that much more immediate when necessary. So that travel elsewhere, that delay, is avoided.
Right, absolutely. And the technology every day is improving. So it's very important that we keep our technology that's on hand up to date. And we've had a long history of donating life-saving medical equipment to the Cayman Islands community. Since our foundation in 2007, we've donated an EKG, or electrocardiogram machine, which records the electric signals of your heart and gives the doctors a much better idea of the strength of your heart and where there may be issues. And it's so important. And this is something that can be used for both children and adults, for the entire community, to help improve their cardiovascular health.
I think what it does as well, Ms. Katie, if I might, is that it tells us that, I think as Alison shared earlier, that as a community, if we pool our resources, whether it's our funds, no matter how little we think it may be or how much we may boast about it, it just shows the combined impact. And then as a community, we get buy-in, we get ownership, walking through, hey, I was part of that. Oh, look, because of our efforts, maybe we were in the walk, we attended the fundraiser, or we volunteered. It just helps. But it also allows the country, through its government's expenditure, hopefully in a mindful way, not have to spend money on this completely, and therefore money is available to spend on something else.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you had the AEDs, I know you've done the EKGs. And
cardiac probes for the neonatal and children's ward, very important. We've also provided supplies for the cardiac rehab program. And, the ambulance.
Yeah.
That was
the big one.
Significant donation, because that, again, is saving lives every day.
Yeah. I mean, it's squat, it's souped up. That's good. I'm just kidding. Next, edition of it, we put wings on it. It'll be able to have us lift off the Harriers and take us to the back much easier.
Well, that might be the future state, actually, of emergency medical care. You never know.
Honestly, I can see that the leveraging of technology like that, and the air ambulance will literally be an ambulance that flies.
I grew up in London, and I'm quite often used to seeing motorbikes with emergency medical support, just because of the traffic situation. So motorbikes can weave through traffic and actually get to incidents much quicker. So maybe that's one of the things for the future. We should look at that at a board meeting, Katie.
I think so. Yeah. Maybe we could rehabilitate some of the motorcyclists that are errant in their ways to come around to help us from a health-saving standpoint.
Yeah, but the ambulance is a really big one. I moved to Ireland in 2016 when that was donated, and it wasn't until I started working with the Heart Fund that I realised that was a donation that we had coordinated. That's what we do as an organisation. We coordinate the community to pull that resources together to gift it, and it really does serve every member of the community. Obviously, cardiac health is what we're all about, and it is still the biggest killer, but the ambulance serves lots of functions, and I'm sure has saved many lives for lots of different issues over over the years since it's been in place.
Yeah.
So
and will continue to do so.
We'll continue to do so. Yeah.
And I think as I listen to, I mean, you talk about heart health and Heart Awareness Month. I mean, for me, it's easy sometimes to be so dismissive of our health when we think we are healthy, when in fact we may be. But what if there is an unfortunate accident? What if something that, despite your regular checkups, just goes undiagnosed? You know.
Well, it's easy for hypertension or high blood pressure to go undiagnosed because, I mean, that's one reason why they call it the silent killer. You may have it and never even suspect that there's anything wrong. But once you do find out, once you do know your numbers, which is so critical, this is one of our, aspects of our mission to educate people to, and we do offer health screenings to get them in to learn, okay, well, here's a situation that I need to bring under control. And once you do that with the right medication and lifestyle changes, let's face it, you can do things that are going to be good for you, like daily exercise and eating the right foods, and a number of other things, which Valley or Chloe want to talk about. But if you can do those things and improve your lifestyle, and in doing so your heart health, then that's worth everything.
I mean, they say knowledge is power. To be in control of your health, you need the knowledge of your health to do it, and that's what our public health screenings are all about, and our education programs to remind people to see their doctor, to know their numbers, find out and take control of their own health, because with that information they can really empower themselves to live a healthier lifestyle and live longer, because that's what our mission is all about. We don't want to lose people. We want people to have their hearts beating as long as possible. Right.
Well, if I might, only with Chloe's consent and certainly with acquiescence, if she wishes to join, I think sometimes when we think about heart health, we tend to think of older people or parents. If we're 50, it is our parents who are 80, 90, and 150. If we're teenagers or early in our adulthood, we probably would think, well, our parents were 40, 50, 60. And in the absence of a congenital sort of abnormality, we never think of heart health as Ms. Katie's talking about, a lifestyle thing. So that very young person, there's a physician who was, well, unfortunately hasn't been on the program for a number of years, who reminded me that a doctor, that sort of definition is a teacher. And as a young physician in the 70s, late 60s, he's based in the U.S. The young American men are coming back from Vietnam, and he shared that their heart health was so deplorable that had they not died in the war, they probably would not have lived very long. And here are, late teenagers, early 20s, and that resonates. So with that in mind, Ms. Chloe, if you wish, heart health, that exercise of literally being physically active, being conscious of what we eat, of developing a practice so that we're mindful of, daily exercise, proper sleep, proper nutrition, but having fun. I mean, laughter is good medicine. Chocolate is too, but that's a different story.
I mean, I think as a young person myself, working with the Heart Fund has really opened me up to so many doors of how important heart health is, and especially when you're young, you have to start young so that you can avoid those things later on in life. And especially what you were talking about with Congenital Heart Awareness Week, like we're currently in that from the 7th until Valentine's Day next week, Monday. And I think it's really important with the awareness and the education, because if we don't start there, then we can't move forward with influencing and support. You have to start with the whole awareness and get that message out there so that people know.
And it's
how
lifestyle.
It can be avoided.
It's also habit forming. I say this carefully because even as a young person myself, we think we're invincible, right? We don't stop. I think to some of our elderly folks, they're approaching 90 and 100, but they're full of energy. They're moving. But if you look at their lifestyle, ball emotion stays in motion. They're constant active. But that young person that is, working perhaps on that degree isn't sleeping a whole lot. Maybe because of the pressures and expectations, just the demands of that time, isn't eating and exercising, isn't laughing and socializing responsibly and appropriately. What happens when that young person now isn't 20, but is 60 or 40 or 80? So Ms. Chloe, that habit forming, that education and that awareness, could make a difference if we learn now in early teens and we deploy it when we're 19.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. After this short break, maybe when we come back, Ms. Alison, through you, we can talk about some of the things that our Heart Fund has on, some of the great ways to encourage the community to partner, but even how we as people can start to recognize that it's never too late, to give a heart, give a little bit of love. There's a song there, I think. All right, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Freedom, Cayman Rack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
How do I lose weight and keep it off?
I can't just eat salads. Have you tasted my family's rundown? And oh, what about the turtle meat?
These are common questions I hear from people when it comes to weight loss. Learn how to lead a healthier lifestyle, the one you desire, and successfully manage your weight with my proven step-by-step process and my new book, New Shoes, A Journey of Self-Discovery.
Working with Donna has helped me create a healthier lifestyle. Old habits are no longer a challenge. If you're looking for help in managing life, reducing weight, and maintaining a lifestyle that fits your wellness goals, Donna Mitchell is the coach you need.
New Shoes, A Journey of Self-Discovery has been tried and tested on hundreds of participants in the Cayman Islands and is available on Amazon and Kindle. Order your copy today. Visit inspiredwithdonna.com for more details.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks very much for joining us. And sometimes, these discussions are not just informative, hopefully they're instructive, hopefully they're encouraging and empowering as they educate, but as they engage. And I would like us to, as we talk to our friends at Cayman Heart Fund, as a takeaway, let's look after our own heart health. The heart that we have for others to serve, the heart that's within us to love and to give. But the heart is that physical thing that are people who know more about biology will say, listen, Bondaby wasn't wrong, and Dickens, and if your heart isn't functioning well, you don't get that much out of life. So, Miss Chloe Jackson, Miss Allison, and Miss Katie, thanks for coming on board. In a few minutes left in our discussion, there's much that we can do and should do and will do together. So, Miss Allison, through you, share with us.
Yeah, the Cayman Heart Fund offers various different programs to the community to try and support people to take care of their own hearts. Some of our youth programs that I speak about briefly, Dr. Chen runs our Get Active program for families in the summer. So this is one of these intervention programs where we really try and teach healthy lifestyle choices, including cooking and fitness programs, to kind of, turn families around and start when they're young so that they can lead an ongoing healthy lifestyle. Our new chairperson, Maureen Cubban, is very passionate about the food revolution. She's one of the best-known chefs on the island, and she's very passionate about our Seed to Plate programme in conjunction with the YMCA, which is our kitchen garden programme, teaching kids where their food comes from and how to grow their own food, and really going to go back to basics. And that's something that the Cayman Islands is very passionate about. I know it's been very sad with the pandemic. We haven't had the agricultural show for a couple of years, but that's what that's all about. The Heart Fund also offers various different programmes, our financial assistance programmes, in particularly our paediatric programme, at the moment managed by a very dedicated board member, Eliane Evans, who sadly lost her son, Nolan, a few years ago to a congenital heart defect. But they passionately raise money through their 2 big events each year, which the beach walk is usually in February, but sadly couldn't take place this year because of the rising COVID numbers. They also do Kids Fest at Pedro St James in the summer, and all that money raised through their programmes goes to assist families that have a baby born with a congenital heart defect. A lot of people ask me, well, how common is that? It's actually very common. It's the most common birth defect going as a heart problem, and it's 1 in 100 babies. So when you think about that figure, 1 in 100, if I was having my next kid and I knew that, I'd be really concerned. So very valuable programme.
And we do think that the beach walk will be held, but just later in the year, once we get past this, where the numbers can come out and support the whole effort, because it is a huge effort on the beach.
And we want people to be safe. Is the other thing. A lot of people that support that event are families with people who are vulnerable, who are suffering with various conditions. So we can only do it if we really think everyone's going to be okay. We have loads of other programmes going on. So our AD programme, you mentioned defibrillators. The Heart Fund sell defibrillators, or supply defibrillators to the community. And I think over the years since we've had that programme, it's been going since 2009, so a really long time, hundreds of defibrillators in places, because your risk of suffering a sudden cardiac event is quite high, and the intervention between suffering the cardiac event and getting intervention is really important. Really, every second counts at that point. So if your heart stops beating, really most important thing is to get going with CPR and try and get an AD to the person as quickly as possible. We've donated lots of ADs to the community in the past. We've made sure they were in all the government schools, in all the police stations. Recently did another donation of batteries to all the police stations, all the mobile units, the helicopter, really so to improve the chances of people surviving a sudden cardiac event. And we've really been behind that. A lot of people say, how can I support the Heart Fund? Well, one of the things people can do is learn CPR. You don't have to know CPR in order to get an AD on someone when the heart stops beating, but knowing CPR, going on that course, empowering yourself, because someone drops in front of you and isn't breathing anymore, everyone goes into panic mode. Most people know to call 911, and that is the first thing you need to do. Get that emergency response team to them as quickly as possible. But empowering yourself with the knowledge of how you can help them will make such a difference if it actually happens to you. And it could mean the difference between life and death to a colleague, a loved one, a friend, or a complete stranger. You just never know when it's going to happen. So there's loads of places on the island that do CPR training. The Red Cross, we do CPR training through wonderful volunteers at St Matthew's University. There's lots of private organisations that do training. A lot of the dive courses do it. It's a few hours of your day for a couple of years of knowledge that empowers you to maybe help someone.
And I'm glad you said a couple of years, because I think that reminds me, even though we may have had CPR training, I say when I had here, so it was a long time ago, we need to have a refresher.
You always need to refresh it, because it's always changing. The guidelines are always changing on CPR. Even with the COVID-19 pandemic, the advice now is hands-only CPR. But that is the most important thing. The most important thing when the heart stops beating, keep the blood going through. You need the blood to go through the body to get to the brain, to keep the vital organs going. It's always changing. They're always changing the rules as people learn more about these conditions, as the researchers and the medical and the physicians are doing all this. So refreshing yourself and just reminding yourself as well. So if the worst happens, you're prepared for it. Preparation is key.
I think too, we tend to somewhat genuinely spring into action when there is a crisis, an emergency. Some of us, we get flustered and we panic, and perhaps on the AED, we may not even realize it's just right there on the wall. It's there, but we don't see it, we don't know it, and even if we do, we're concerned about how do I do this thing? Am I going to electrocute the person?
Is it for me? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I never knew what I walked past the AD in my daughter's school every day and thought that's nice for the emergency person that's going to need it. It wasn't until I actually worked for the Heart Fund that I realised, that's meant for me. It's meant for anybody. They're public use defibrillators. That's what they're known about in the UK.
But let me ask of you, and carefully, because we see this thing and we will either, as you said, A, or that's for those who are trained specialist knowledge, or B, do we think that it's as easy to use once we've been properly instructed as it is? It's actually, it's opened up a box of candy.
They're actually known as robot paramedics.
Yeah.
They actually speak to you. As soon as all you need to do is get it to the patient and turn it on, and it will tell you what to do. Yeah. I mean, maybe on another show I'll bring one with me. Shall I?
We'll turn it on. Try on DJ Lane?
We can.
He volunteered for the police taser. No, he didn't.
We won't put the electrodes on. Don't worry. But a lot of people ask as well, are they safe to use? Yeah. People panic about it.
Yes.
Will I do more harm than good? If the heart stopped beating, the person's technically dead. Yeah. You can't do much more harm, but you can save a life if you pull one. The awareness that we really need to do more of as the Heart Fund is telling people what they are, and empowering them to feel like they can use it, even if they haven't had the training. Great if you can go on the training, even if you haven't.
And we do announce when the training is taking place on our website, which is certainly just caymanheartfund.ky. So we do post that, so please check into that.
Well, you know what? That's going to be one of our next shows, and I want to joke, and for those that didn't laugh, trust me, I did. When we say we would try it on DJ Lynn, he I'm not sure, but we could check it out. But they're not difficult to use. They're not dangerous.
They're for anybody to use without training. Just feel confident enough to open that cabinet or pull it down off the wall and get it to the patient and try your best. There has been one successful life save on the island by somebody that had never used one before, but just had remembered it was at their location and connected it, and that person is alive today because of that intervention.
And I think, as you shared just then, it's worth reminding that the environment in which we live, not even the training and sort of the revised guidelines relative to hands only for CPR, but some of us may be a little bit more safety conscious and fearful because of where we are. We may be, as they say in West Bay, scornful, so I'm not put my lips on that person's lips, but AED is almost as hands off as you could possibly get, other than attaching the leads to the person. So you save that person's life. That is, I got to go down good in the book.
Every minute counts. Every second.
All right. Now, as we look forward to future discussions, of course, the donation is significant. But there's something else that you going to unveil, as it were?
We do. So we're really sorry that our founder, Susie Soto, couldn't be here today. She had another really important meeting, but I'm sure she'll be back again. She's obviously passionate about our Heart Heroes programme, and we're very excited to announce the return of our Heart Heroes Awards event, which will be taking place in September, close to World Heart Day. We've got some fantastic new Heart Heroes to unveil to the community, and we're going to be putting their photos on our wall at the Georgetown Hospital, near to the cardiology unit. We're really excited to share more about that. So reserve the date in your calendars, 30th of September 2022 at the Marriott at lunchtime. Tickets are on sale currently on Eventpro, and we're looking forward to having a great event and sharing these really passionate and interesting stories with the community.
All right, well, we're certainly going to make a note to have a number of discussions with Goswell in between now and then. But as we close with the discussion, first, as not just a stalwart in the community, but as a director of the Heart Fund, Ms. Katie, and then, of course, if Ms. Chloe, if you want to share something, just a quick comment. Where are we, and where should we be relative to heart health? How can we draw alongside?
I think all of us need to take responsibility for our heart health to the extent that we can, and that we know what we need to do, and that is what the Cayman Heart Fund's mission is, to help people learn what things can help facilitate excellent cardiovascular health. So I would just invite everyone to please tune into our Facebook page and our Instagram page. That's simply Cayman Heart Fund. Just search on that. Our website, caymanheartfund.ky. And we just really thank anyone who wants to step forward as a volunteer. We can certainly use anyone's help, and we just want to thank you as well today for letting us tell a little bit more about the Cayman Heart Fund to your listeners. Thank you so much.
Very much a pleasure. Miss Chloe, if you want to say anything to our listeners.
Yeah, I guess following off what Katie was saying about just being responsible and knowing your numbers and all these things to know how to care for your heart, and bring back to what I mentioned earlier about the youth. I think it's very important to start there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think having a passion for heart health and wanting to spread that awareness is really important. And I know Ali and I are currently working on one of our new programs we want to launch, which is the Youth Heart Ambassadors program. So just things like that, really having a passion and wanting to be in a leadership role where you can spread the awareness and then educate and support the community at such a young age is just really, really vital to improving the heart health in the community. So, yeah.
Ms. Allison. Thank you, Ms. Chloe.
No problem.
Closing thoughts, Mom?
Closing thoughts. Well, just to all your listeners, we hope you take care of your heart. We hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day. We hope we've inspired you to learn a little bit more about the Heart Fund and what we do, and maybe ways that we can help you. And yeah, look forward to hearing more about us in the future, and look forward to be back on the show and again soon.
Well, certainly an invitation is there, and I trust that all of us will continue to, take care of our hearts and take care of the hearts of those that we care for. Because, without a heart, what would you be? A politician? No, just kidding. Just 949-8037 is the number to call. But when we come back from this break, we're going to welcome some other good friends from another important agency. So please, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. Shortly after 6:45 p.m. yesterday, February 8th, police responded to a report of a female teenager found unresponsive at a residential address on Water Street, Bodden Town. She was pronounced dead shortly before 8 p.m. The matter is under investigation. However, the death is not believed to be suspicious at this time. In international news, all remaining COVID restrictions in England, including the legal rule to self-isolate, could end later this month, Boris Johnson has said. Under the current rules, anyone who tests positive must self-isolate for at least 5 days. The current restrictions are due to expire on March 24th. European scientists say they have made a major breakthrough in their quest to develop practical nuclear fusion, the energy process that powers the stars. The UK-based JET laboratory has smashed its own world record for the amount of energy it can extract by squeezing together two forms of hydrogen. If nuclear fusion can be successfully recreated on Earth, it holds out the potential of virtually unlimited supplies of low-carbon, low-radiation energy. The experiments produced 59 megajoules of energy over 5 seconds, which is 11 megawatts of power. This is more than double what was achieved in similar tests back in 1997. SpaceX has lost dozens of satellites after they were hit by a geomagnetic storm a day after launch, causing them to fall from orbit and burn up. Such solar storms are caused by powerful explosions on the sun's surface, which spit out plasma and magnetic fields that can hit the Earth. The company, owned by billionaire Elon Musk, said up to 40 of 49 satellites from last week's launch were hit. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255. Let your voice be heard. And now, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks very much for joining us, and thanks for such a wonderful community that constantly striving to show a greater sense of love and unity and compassion, a sense of commitment to charitable giving and to sharing of our knowledge, as Miss Marlon always says, giving of our time, our talent and our treasure. Now, as we welcome friends from the as a management, I think if the other two fine gentlemen don't mind, we'll start with Mr. Simon Boxwell as the Public Education and Preparedness Officer. You know, every June, as it were, you know, months and months and months before June rolls around, we always reach out and we have an annual discussion, hurricane preparedness, and we're starting to appreciate that there are other things that could impact us. I remember not long ago sitting in this studio, and thank God, it was probably the first time in my life that I felt such a peace, despite the rumbling and the thing that would eventually come. I don't say this anyway to boast, but a sense of calm and preparedness, either through prayer, but preparation, but also having people that instills a sense of confidence. And I sat here, and later a buddy called and said, he was with his mother. He said, "Oh, something's happening to me." I went back to listen to the audio, and my voice just became slower. You could sense it. And then my brother said, "Oh, you must be like the ants and the other animals, you know when something's coming and you go to higher ground." But there are those of us who get agitated. We know it's coming. So Simon, through your education initiatives together with HMCI, whether it's on hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes, or just making sure that you don't leave your sister alone in the kitchen, because that could be a disaster.
Serious hazard.
See, you know about that too, right? but good afternoon, and as we talk about all the things, I mean, help us to appreciate it. I'll start with you first, Simon.
Thanks for having us again. And as you said, you kindly have us for hurricane season, but we're an all hazards agency, and so we, at the moment we've got training going on for chemical and radiation type stuff. So we're always trying to evolve, get better prepared. And there's some threats that don't happen very often. Thank goodness, we don't have big transportation accidents.
There's one election every 4 years, so not many stress that happen often. Man, he's pushing it today.
Got to have a sense of humor there.
Well, if you're not tall and handsome, at least you'd be short and jovial. That's the opposite.
Well, you told us a joke. I was still laughing when I came in.
You like that one, huh? Oh, man, thank you.
But anyway, so yeah.
You're still laughing.
So we're really marking the anniversary today of the January 28, 2020 earthquake. I don't know if you have that video of you in the studio. That would be interesting because you got cameras in here.
Oh, yeah. Joel, he went to town, man. He is phenomenal, man.
Is he?
Oh, man, he is amazing.
Really?
That video, that's where my children first realized what job I do.
It's tough. You're under pressure all the time. So yeah, it's a difficult one to prepare for because it doesn't happen very often. And like you said, it's quite frightening, especially if you don't feel like you've done any of the kind of legwork to prepare. Then it's startling, and people might react in ways where they actually can increase their risk and threat to their life even. So yeah, we're trying to get the word out right now that even though it was the second biggest earthquake in 100 years, so 7.7.
Wow.
And so you have to go back to 1946, the Dominican Republic event, to get one that big. But it was, Lennox we were talking about it earlier, it was a long way away. It was 160 miles away from where we're sitting now. So if it had been on top of us, it could have been a bigger shake.
I'm wondering, though, and of course, I attempt at humor at times, not just to deflect and to mask, but it helps to cope, but you also help to appreciate that sometimes, and I think back to instruction, whether in university or even prior, the classes that were a little bit more engaging and fun, you tend to enjoy those classes more and you actually remember the stuff, or if you don't remember it exactly, you remember where to go to look for the resource to come. And so one of my brothers, he shared that first earthquake in December 2004. I mean, he didn't experience it during the honeymoon. The world was shaking. He thought, "Hey, it's all good, So
Earth was moving for him.
Yeah. There you go. Now, as we invite Lennox, to our discussion, I think operations and logistics manager, right? To think of other disasters, even training for a contingency. God forbid something happens in the harbor. One of the ships, the cruise ships, or one of our storage facilities, as we've seen, not long ago, or something else. There's discussion at some point, and I say this carefully, not to suggest it's a good idea or a bad idea, but if like we see in other jurisdictions where they have gas or oil or some sort of fuel being shipped through a pipe from one location to the next. So let's say we're in East End and we're going to pipe it into the airport, and just like we have water and sewage going underground, we have natural gas lines. I mean, we've all seen Arnold Schwarzenegger movies in Los Angeles. Earthquake comes and the pipes explode and so on. So trying to help us to appreciate the education, the preparedness. That is part of the logistic nightmare, as it how to coordinate it, Linux.
It is. It can be, and as our environment change. So, for example, we're presently dealing with the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So the challenge there is that you have a number of bus operators who are, going out of business, and a lot of their vehicles are parked or whatever. So it poses a bit of a challenge on that end. Mm-hmm. The flip side of it and the positive side is majority of the hotels are empty. So should you have a need for a space to accommodate a number of people, it's relatively easy. Mm-hmm. So constantly we are having to adapt and change the way we address things and be aware of what our options are so that we can address things appropriately. So yes, I would say our landscape constantly changes, and just being aware of it helps us in some ways, but in some ways it makes it more challenging.
All right. Now, Mark, to you, in the area of mitigation, I mean, like many of us, we're cutting our teeth as we're going, right? And we can look to, let's say, the old seafarers, who've had, decades of experience at sea, and here's this young, sailor just learning the ropes, and they don't have to even tie the knot. We go and grow as we go and grow, right? So, to your perspective, what brings to the table other than the tabletop exercises to get us, but we unfold as we go.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Banks, and wonderful afternoon to your guests as well. From the standpoint of HMCI, we've been working closely with series of stakeholders to really leverage in terms of quick response and to notify the public in short order. And just of courtesy, extend one of my brochures to you here.
Madam Speaker, let the record reflect. Thank you, sir.
No problem. So essentially, what we're working in the past, I would say a year or two now, we're looking to leverage in terms of mobile apps, SMS as well, and emails. So January 28, 2020, would have seen that earthquake. And of course, persons would like to have information in their hands pretty much. So what we have worked on closely with BlackBerry, who's our vendor, is to leverage a mobile app. So from the HMCI perspective, as well as working with 911, we're able to publish information in short order. Of course, there are a series of tones that would go with this mobile app. So if it's an earthquake, it would be a loud alert that would notify the person to either to move to higher grounds or would indicate instructions accordingly. And of course, there are other events, and outside of hurricane season, of course, if there's a major fire, a tropical storm included, which we consider to be like slow onset, like tropical storm. Adequate notice, but it gives the public that official source of information in a fast and ready time. What we're trying to do is have that system roll out in a few weeks, so persons can look out for that.
I certainly appreciate you giving us a perspective on it, but if you contrast, let's say, something that happens suddenly, whether it's unexpected, God forbid, an explosion of sorts, or whether it is an earthquake. Now, to the best of my knowledge, there's little or no warning, so to speak, relative to, say, a hurricane that even will make up in a small space, a few hours out. You still got some time. With the two earthquakes that I think sort of resonates with me, the one in December 2004, the one just 2 years ago, we saw that the communications, the cell towers, I think in the first one, if I remember right, there were less interaction and communication relative to the second one, even though the second one was much larger, Simon. So is that infrastructure and capacity building that helped us in the second one, or is it just
You've probably got more expertise, you guys, on things like network capacity and stuff.
Well, I mean, we could probably tag team it, of course, but just from the perspective from a technical component, over the years, they would have learned from lessons, not just what we saw in the 2004 event, but if you look at the tsunami that was in 2004 as well, right, in Indonesia, lessons were learned from that component. Different countries around the world would have looked at the Sendai framework, and of course, looking at those best practices from other regions, would apply them and improve upon our system. So what we saw in 2020 in particular would have the radar alert system, which is our phase 1, which would have used the radars to basically break the broadcasts and notify the public there's a pending emergency, which would be the earthquake in that instant. In terms of our response mechanism, and of course the establishment of HMCI in 2007, that would be a major hallmark, I would say. So there have been significant improvement. I think where we are trying to leverage is using the technologies and, of course, having a robust network working close to both the public and the private sector to really engage this type of partnership initiative, I should say.
So after this break, could we invite you to share with us as best as you can? Now, for some of us, we like to have as much knowledge as we can. Some of us get caught up in analysis paralysis, but some of us, without sufficient knowledge to distill, we don't feel that we've exhausted all the things. For some of us, we don't want to know anything, and so it takes many. But I'm on the former sort of end of the spectrum. So through you, help us to appreciate what happens, not just after the minutes, hours, the days, following some event, earthquake, tsunami, or any sort of a major exercise, but some of the things that we're doing in preparation, even though we are not sure that earthquake is going to strike at this time, we may have a better idea of a hurricane. So what are we doing to help that? There are different tabletop exercises we've seen over the years relative to, in conjunction with the Civil Aviation Airports Authority, had there been major hazard incident. But there are things that we can. So if it's possible, perhaps we can talk about that. I also would ask, and if it's not through you at this time appropriate, maybe at some point, I'm personally a very big believer in capacity building that through a community effort. I don't wish to offend any sensibilities, but why I'm such a strong proponent for something like a CERT team, you build within your community this capacity, and everybody has an understanding. There's a resource. How we respond, well, that depends on the time, but at least you've been given first aid training, you've been knowledgeable about this, you know the resource and that. We have something. So maybe as we look at extending that, how we can. And then as we go through the discussion, maybe we can talk more specifically about earthquakes and tsunamis and help us to get to a space where a little bit of fear can be taken away. At the very least, we have a little bit of knowledge to instruct us. Would that be fine?
Sounds good. Absolutely.
All right. And during the break, I'll try to get some turtle meat, but let's see what happens. All right. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Following the storm of 1932, Cayman Brac, under the initiative of Commissioner A.W. Cardinal, engaged in several different industries to boost their recovery efforts. Sharks were actively fished for their skins, which were then shipped via Jamaica to New York. For perspective, one good shark skin over 35 inches could feed a family for a week. Egging became more common. The practice of egging meant traveling hundreds of miles to the Sorana, Pedro, and Morant Cays and collecting birds' eggs and then shipping them direct to Jamaica. The eggs would value at £4 per thousand, with the season record being 291,000 eggs collected. Cattle and goat hide tanning was also a trade unique to the Brac by the Lazari family in Northeast Bay. Its leather products supplied the sister islands and was exported to Jamaica and sold in Grand Cayman.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks very much for joining us. And of course, the phone lines are available to us. And with great deference to all of our listeners, I think this information, as often as we can repeat it and engage our listeners, hopefully it'll resonate. It'll give us a sense of comfort, provide us with an avenue where we can access timely information. And so I'm grateful that HMCI will come on board, Simon Boxall, Lennox Vernon, together with their colleague Mark Codlin, for sharing with us. Now, I know when we hear about earthquakes in particular, there was probably a time not long ago when we didn't even think earthquakes, tsunamis. Now the two are almost synonymous.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if, and I'm being mindful, I don't want to scare anybody, but I'm not sure if the fear in people now are so much earthquake as if, is there going to be a tsunami? And that creates a thing. So Simon, you direct the round table, but
thank you. It complicates our messaging, in what people should do, because we're very low-lying, as people know in many places. It doesn't, you don't have big hills. So, what should people do? So we have this little saying, if it's long and strong, get gone. You have to sort of assume that there might be, if the earthquake is really long, like a minute, you're just like, when is the shaking going to stop? Or really strong, you should kind of assume that there's a tsunami coming. So, if you're in one of the low-lying buildings along the shore or whatever, something like that, then really you should be thinking, hopefully in advance you've already thought, well, if there was such a threat, where would I probably go, What we're saying now is if you're in like a strong multi-story building, there's no signs of cracks or anything after the earthquake, you've done your little duck cover and hold, you got underneath, then stick around probably in your multi-story office building. So we're actually looking at a lot of the plans for the schools, the muster points. Most of them are sufficiently far inland, we think, like, along Walker's Road and things, that really it's very unlikely that the wave hopefully would reach that far in and have to be a huge event. So we're sort of doing more oversight of the plans. We're not clear on the actual risk of tsunami, but we're aware of the shallows in the North Sound, a 10 square mile area. So you need a kind of a shelf area to create the run-up. It's a very long wavelength for a wave. It's not like a normal wave. It could be 40, 50 miles long. So mitigation, what Mark does, is so critical because now the Pacific Warning Center, Tsunami Warning Center in Hawaii, is actually going to help us look at our underwater environment in the near shore to see, just where the areas of vulnerability might be, how big is the risk of tsunami. But at the present time we're saying, but also if you feel a very long earthquake but not strong, that still might be a tsunami, because that could be a regional event. But don't even wait for a warning. If you feel a real strong one and you're on the beach or something, just head inland. Obviously, if you're in a building with big structural failures or cracks, you need to get out, because as we saw after that one, there were 23 aftershocks, including an earthquake which was magnitude, I think, 6.1. That's probably right, Mark, that same day at 4 o'clock. Biggie happened at 2:10. But a lot of it is learning the mitigation, looking at the risk analysis. And I want to talk about it a little bit, because the planning department's actually been very proactive. A lot of the preparedness and safety is maybe looking at the governance structure. How are we building? Is it appropriate? Do the buildings keep people safe? Are they designed to cope with the winds that we face in hurricanes? Are they able to deal with survive an earthquake? So at some point, I'll let others jump in. I'd like to talk a little bit about the work that the planning department's been doing to just make sure that, given what we went through, 53 sinkholes, quite violent shaking.
Yeah.
Are we building the right way, or do we need to change?
And what is that? And this is where I think that, as you shared, whether it's the experts that are planning, I mean, this is what they're trained for, in combination with the policy analysts and advisors, together with the expertise that has the management, from the construction personnel to the individual homeowner. How do we make sure that the structure is safe, but also isn't so exorbitant? I mean, it's not about a risk analysis of saying, well, I can put in this window and it'll cost me 10% more, and the probability of needing it is less than 0.000. But for some people, that expense, better be safe than sorry. But if we can add some sort of, to Mark's words, mitigating factor in terms of cost, we can make it work, right?
And commonly too, is a term on a global scale they use build back better. So in these situations where without,
or is it build back bigger in some places? Still the 3 B's, The
3 B's, but it's a very common use concept, especially after the major tsunami in 2004 in Indonesia, the Asia region. Would have seen that, but I think it's important when it comes to building code. It's always ongoing in terms of review. In many countries, they undertake review also per X amount of years, just to examine and see what's the best practice, and always ensuring that the safety of the building and of course individuals. At the end of the day, it's not the earthquake that kills an individual; it's really the buildings.
Yeah,
so that's
the collapse of the buildings.
The collapse of the building, exactly. So that's critical. That's very, very important for us.
We were listening, as I should share, we have a message from the WhatsApp, but we have from the HNCA, Mark Arlen, Lennox Vernon, and Simon Boxall. And we had a quick exchange with this listener. And I'm mindful, because I think the listener, like me, is trying to ensure that people are responsive and responsible, but not necessarily, become over agitated. But back to the point of going to higher ground. We may make mountains of the mole hills in Cayman. We don't really have much height to work with. Some of us work in newer, higher rise buildings, 5, 7, maybe even 10 stories, but for the ones, I'm paraphrasing the interaction with this listener, but for the ones that are on the beaches now. So the two questions that I want to ask, that perhaps comes from this primarily. If you're in a condo on the beach, and it's a 10-story condo, and you're 5 inches from the high water mark, whatever it is now that we're building on, stay there, to come downstairs and move. I mean, I see the sensitivity, but talk to us. I mean, what do we do, Mr. Vernon? They look to you as the man leader with the most courage, or the man with the short straw. Which one?
I was looking at Simon, and I said it before and a number of times. Simon is our resident scientist, although it's not his title. Simon is quite interested and intrigued by looking up these sort of scientific information. But in that particular case, I guess you got to consider where you are and gauge, your situation. So, for example, you're on the beach and you're 10 stories up. Obviously, in a very strong, long event, you're not going to take the elevator. Right. So if you're a larger person and okay, it's going to take me 10 minutes to get down the stairwell, and you're in that building and there's no obvious large cracks in that building. And when we say large cracks, we're thinking if you can put your hand inside, that's a big crack. That means the structural integrity of the building has gone. You may decide to stay where you are. So it is considering, the circumstances under which you're in at that point in time. So I don't know if Simon want to add to that.
No, I think Lennox covered it well. I think if you're generally on the beach, the coastal environment is probably the most concerning for the tsunami, because that's where you're going to take the largest impact typically. So if you can get up, to the second or third floors is what we recommend, and just wait for the all clear. We saw people wanting to pick up their children and going out onto the roads and so forth, and then we're still under a tsunami warning. Luckily, it was only a foot and a half or something in the wave we got in the harbour, but could have been worse. So, just act on the assumption. Don't wait for the National Emergency Notification System alert or even a message for Government or Hazard Management or Radio Cayman. Just make the assumption. Try to get up onto the higher floors if you're in a low-lying area.
All right. Generally speaking, and this was the other sort of question that came from this engagement with this listener. An earthquake, it's he didn't say this, but it's a long, and for some of us during that time, 10 seconds may feel like 10 minutes, for some reason, and we're probably not the best at gauging time for some of us, or even strength, or distance and the like. But you feel this thing and you go, that must be a 15.0. No, it isn't even. So
yeah, we quite.
Yeah,
we don't want that one.
Yeah, but we exaggerate because we're in that mindset. So, with respect, is it possible then for us to say, listen, if it's perceived and if it is in fact determined that it's a very long earthquake, a minute or more, it's of a significant magnitude, what sort of time before that tsunami would impact us? Well, let's start with that first. And how will we know at what point? So the earthquake is in the process now. You're going to take some time to process it. How long will it take you to process this thing so you know exactly what's what? And before that tsunami would hit. Mark, I think that falls in your side of the court, man.
No problem. Essentially, from any major earthquake within the region itself, of course, you'll have different entities, what we call tsunami warning centers across the globe. Closest one to us would be in Hawaii. So essentially what they would have done is undertake what we call estimated time of arrival models. So based on how far the seismic event in terms of the epicenter would emanate, that would allow the seismologists, the scientists, to run their models. Initially, after any major event, you will have that initial, to say, potential earthquake of this magnitude of particular depth. And of course, follow on to that, within several minutes, of course, they would run their models to get the estimated time of arrival. And that would vary, of course. We'd have seen in some cases, it could probably take from like a 5 minute, 20 minutes range, or depending on how far the epicenter is from from us, that is.
Okay.
So that's very important. It ranges for different islands. I know that in March we'll conduct our Carib wave exercise. And that's one of the things that we look at carefully. For the different islands, if there's a particular event, what's the estimated time for arrival of a tsunami, and the height of the wave as well. Is calculated.
So
just to follow on from what Mark was saying, they give us our notification. There's also a network, and Mark's very involved in it. Is the network of sensors around the Caribbean as well. So we have one of those in the harbour, which if an event occurs, gets triggered, that sends a message to the satellite, and then that's distributed as well, and it goes into the validation of the computer model, which initially pumps out a solution on following the earthquake, and then, as Mark pointed out, it's reviewed by seismologists, and if we have the data coming in from one of these stations where we're monitoring the sea level, we can get a better sense of how big it is. But it depends. So if it's very close to us, 20 miles with the speed of the wave, it could be here in under 5 minutes. If it's in the Eastern Caribbean, it might take an hour and a half. If it's off by Swan Island or coast of Honduras, maybe 45 minutes. And then you can even have something called a tele-tsunami, where you don't even feel an earthquake. It's 1,000 miles away, like the event that happened in Lisbon back in the 18th century. And that might take 10 hours for the wave to cross and come to us. We're still not completely out of the woods. If it's, very far away, it can still travel.
Now, I want to come back to that in terms of the geography and the locations and the sensors, if we could. But just to perhaps maybe look at what this message was saying, it triggers a thought. Tsunami, that word. The last one, someone said, we were by the sea, and what looks to be a couple of inches or a few centimeters, there was a noticeable change in the water coming in. Is that a tsunami, or does a tsunami has to be something in excess of a certain height?
Interesting question.
Isn't
I think it's been generated by a seismic event, so in a way it is a tsunami wave. It looked more like a ripple. I mean, it was more interesting looking at some of the video of the water coming down the canals. I don't know if you saw some of that video.
My brother said he was swimming, that's what caused it, but that's a different story.
You jumped in.
He jumped in.
It almost sounds, sorry to jump in here, it almost sounds like the old adage where you say, if a tree falls in the woods and you weren't there to witness it or hear it, does that mean it didn't fall? So in my view, again, we need more science to back this up. But if a tsunami generates, and by the time it reaches our shores, it is a 1 foot wave. It's remnants of that tsunami, because that's not normal part of our wave action.
Okay.
So it is still a tsunami.
Cause and effect.
Exactly.
Okay, well, listen, this is where I think, those of us who didn't think paying attention to school made sense, well, I realize it did. We're going to pause and take a short break. The lights are on the table here to help us to be informed till about 2 p.m. or so. If you've got a question, ask. It depends how we feel, we might answer. Anyway, stay tuned for Talk Today.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way. Positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Healthcare Pharmacy in Governor Square and Grand Harbor has the largest and the best collection of Hallmark and Shoebox Valentine's Day cards. Poetic cards, serious cards, seriously funny cards, fabulous cards, and the perfect card for your Valentine. Healthcare Pharmacy also has Hallmark gift boxes, brand name perfume and cologne sets, home spa kits, and quotable quotes for your Valentine. So this year, make it a perfect Valentine's Day with Healthcare Pharmacy, Grand Harbor, and Governor Square.
Join the Alex Panton Foundation for our 5th annual Youth Mental Health Symposium, taking place on Saturday, 19th of February from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., featuring an impressive lineup of speakers and panels discussing our theme, Thriving in Uncertain Times. This year's event will be streamed via the Alex Panton Foundation Facebook page. Visit alexpantonfoundation.ky to learn more. Sponsored in part by DART, 3T, Burger King, Popeyes, Power, and Compass Media.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks very much for joining us as we have a chance to not just talk about, the potential impact of natural disasters, but perhaps specifically focus on earthquakes. They are unpredictable, perhaps some would say ill-timed. I mean, when is a good time for an earthquake? Never, right?
Never.
So Alex Vernon, their colleagues, Mark Harlin and Samuel Boxall joins us. Gents, as we continue the discussion, could we just maybe pause 1 second and join and invite one of our callers? Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Hey, long time, man. How are you? All the best to you.
Yeah, okay. And same to you and your guests.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, well, not too long ago, the Auditor General put a report in the newspaper not this government was in, but the last government. And she said that the concessions collected, that the concessions that have been given away to individuals, Caymanians have nothing to show for it. And these people that come here to our islands should not feel hard in paying concessions, especially when the money is able to go towards things such as hurricane shelters. Because we have to be honest, hurricane shelters, the foundation has to be at least 10 feet in height. And right now it's my belief that if we were collecting these concessions the way that we should have been, right now we could have had a hurricane shelter in each district. And for people to say that it's a waste of money to build these hurricane shelters is nonsense. I mean, we can ask for the private sector to help us in sheltering people in order for them to be safe in case we do have a tsunami. But it's the government's responsibility to put things in place, such as hurricane shelters, in order to protect their people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And, you know, as I listen to that call, I'm looking at a comment here from our listener. It sort of speaks to that issue of prioritizing not just funds, but training. And the caller is asking, we have hazard management as the official agency. Is there something that the community can do, either through the corporate environment? You know, our office is, as he said, you know, our office has a sports club, has a social club, and we do stuff in terms of community service days. The writer says, you know, we as an office have decided that learning certain skills within the office would be helpful. But are there things that we can do that would better assist not just us? Chances are it may happen late at night or midday while we're at work or home sleeping, whichever. Are there things that we can do as individuals or as corporate entities to prepare, to help to mitigate, to at least be better educated?
Great
Absolutely.
question. Yeah, and it again goes back to this problem with earthquakes happening so infrequently. But you know, if you can put brackets up on a bookcase or something, or in your office, it's much less likely to fall. If it had been closer to us again, that 7.7 would have been much stronger. So things could have fallen. We saw videos of in the liquor store, all the stuff collapsing down, boom. Anything you can do to secure things better, because it's issues. We're worried about the things from above.
Yeah, we should do.
Yes, that too. But yeah, just do a hazard hunt. Think about where you live, where your nearest tiger's ground is. If you had to make a dash for it somewhere, where would you go? Try to put heavy items down low. Don't position really heavy objects above where you spend a lot of time working or sleeping, to minimize the risk of them toppling over on you. Invite hazard management along to do an awareness presentation. Maybe have a working lunch for your staff. We'll look at your muster points. We'll look at your plans. Provide awareness for your staff. It's all free. Right after the earthquake, I mean, we were just doing these things 2 or 3 a day.
Is that a fear? People were then
people shaken. But now
literally,
it's sort of slowed down. But you know, we're happy to do it. But yeah, we're happy to come along, and you know, we're pushing out the earthquake video. We've got these posters we're putting up, hopefully in schools and healthcare clinics over the coming days. We're doing social media stuff. We've been invited along here, but yeah.
You at the outset you shared that, you know, after the assessment, you know, there was 77 sinkholes.
53.
53. Yeah. Okay. And there was, you know, other things, and of course we probably surveyed buildings individually, perhaps, you know, in the private sector, but within the government. With relative to sinkholes, some of them have been perhaps addressed. Listeners asking, are there any concerns that those sinkholes that were evident, you know, A, did we record them, we know where they are? and B, we've addressed them. We've done whatever we needed to do. I guess excavated, filled it in, whichever. Mark, from that perspective, we know where they are,
Yes.
and then the potential concerns. Share with us.
Yes. So after the earthquake, Department of Planning, of course, we call the initial damage assessment team. They conducted various assessments and used GPS locations to capture X and Y coordinates. So we have those locations mapped. And on top of that, I know they would have done some redeemable work in terms of fixing and adjusting accordingly. But what we are trying to do is to have a database, and this would also inform, I know Simon, working closely with the Department of Planning. Such information will be shared in terms of for the study to look at vulnerability and looking at the potential impacts of areas could consider to be hotspots. So if we should be having some messaging and also looking at areas that could be possibly impacted in the future, we could address these accordingly. And of course, it would also look in terms of improving the building code going forward for such areas, depending on the soil type, of course, in the different parts of the island.
I think this is where having that information helps us. Hurricane Evan was very informative after the fact. It probably spoke a lot to what, if you were a sea captain coming into the local knowledge, and the older people knew certain things and they did certain things in that area or didn't as a result of their sort of inherited knowledge. So now we have the data. Then actually, you and Simon, part of the education and part of the logistics is to ensure that we have that, we apply it, and it informs us in terms of our decision making. Placing of buildings, for instance, the use of lands.
Yeah. I just wanted to, the thought came to my mind earlier on at the beginning of the show when we talked about the difference between the 2004 event and the 2020 event. And one of the key differences is that HMCI now exists. Yes, we were born back in 2007, so we've been conducting a number of activities to educate and bring awareness to various hazards that we face. So today we're taking a little small dive, I guess a shallow dive into earthquakes. And again, the awareness, we are in a world today compared to when I was a student at school. When I wanted information or the student talked about a topic, I had to go to the library. I had to physically ask my parents to carry me to the library to look for a book and get that information. We are in an environment where technology is everywhere. And most of us, and perhaps I'm speaking for myself, but I think most of us, at night, just before we go to sleep, we're watching videos. If people in the household would spend 5 minutes just educating and bringing some awareness and knowledge to themselves of what the potential dangers are, visiting our website, understanding what plans are actually in place and how you as a citizen in your community can fit into that. So we have programs such as the Community Emergency Response Teams we talked about earlier, or CERTs, understanding that these programs will train you and bring some awareness and information that you can be self-sufficient on and work as part of a team, that if public safety personnel cannot reach you, you can do something. Yes, and you're making that recovery process even quicker. Yes. Yeah.
Well, this is where I appreciate these opportunities, and I think it takes individual responsibility and a concerted effort, but also reminds us of the importance of working as a team. And the premise, and certainly my perception of what the CERT program is, I think speaks well for equipping society. When we come back from this final break, as we conclude the discussion, share more with us. So maybe we can talk about some of the things that our building code and planning should look like, our construction methods, whatever you wish to share, so that we start to think and not to, I'll try not to joke too much in the next segment, but, so that we can look at it very carefully and not be political, but be so societally driven that we understand the impact of our actions and, sadly, our inactions. All right.
Yeah, just one quick point I wanted to bring to about the last caller when we spoke about shelters. We do have shelters in every district, including the sister islands. The challenge that we face, though, is that some of those shelters are older shelters. So we talk about seismic events. So being an older shelter, they did not conform to the newer building code. So we are constantly looking at new buildings that are coming online. We have one out in Bodden Town that is about to come online this year, hopefully, knock on wood. And we will use that as a shelter. We speak about the John Gray High School. We use the gymnasium, but we are going to increase our capacity there as well. So the challenge is there. It's real. And it is definitely at the forefront of our activities at HMCI.
All right, let's pause and take that break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
The Tuesday and Thursday edition of The Business Buzz is brought to you by Cayman Medical Supplies, providing quality pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, and consumer products to healthcare providers, retailers, and ultimately the patients at a reasonable rate in a friendly, caring, and timely manner. Cayman Medical Supplies is located at number 93 Smith Road, Windward Center. Telephone 949-6211.
A couple means two. Whether it's your spouse, significant other, or bestie, couples who sweat together stay together. King Sports Center is offering a gym and bowling special this Valentine period. Get 2 annual Powerhouse Gym memberships for $750 starting from February 6th and ending on the 14th. Receive a free self-defense class for 2 upon purchase. At Kingpin Bowling, couples can get 2 games and 2 glasses of wine for only $40. The bowling offer is from February 11th to the 13th only. For more info, call us at 946-5464. That's 946-5464. King's Sports Center, your second home for fitness and recreation, celebrating 20 years of service.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. Simon Boxall, Lennox Vernon, and Mark Codlin from HMCI joins us. And I really appreciate you. If I could use the term, you're taking this educational awareness as a media road show, as it were, and maybe many of us would hear the discussion, hear the 3 amigos, as it were, and other your colleagues, and just pay attention. Maybe there's one little bit that they didn't hear the first time, or maybe they heard it but then it resonates again. And I think on Lennox's last comment, we do a little light reading, we watch a little video at some point throughout the evening. Take a few minutes and watch videos. Where would it be, other than HMCI's website, what sort of, and you can come back later on with resources if you wish, but I say this being very, very mindful to your comment about the library. Back in the day, when we were in school, libraries were a luxury. When it became an air-conditioned space, it was a retreat for some, and very few were actually even allowed in the library. I mean, it was weird, right? You weren't allowed, but nowadays they're encouraged. But to that extent, if we're going to a resource, let's say online, Google search and research isn't synonymous. I mean, there's a lot of foolishness out there from supposedly reputable places and people, including. Let me just hold off for now, Simon.
I mean, it's a vulnerability because we become so dependent on the internet, and in the last 120 years there's been 3 submarine cable communication cable snaps in earthquakes and tsunamis. This government's investing in another cable, it's looking like anyways, to give us more resilience. and capacity. So that's forward-looking. But earlier you were mentioning the importance of partnerships. You mentioned CERT, you meant volunteer agencies are critical too, things like Red Cross. But also working in partnership with other government agencies. And I have to give credit to planning here, because in the aftermath of that big earthquake, that 7.7 magnitude event, Mr. Haroon Pandui commissioned a study to see basically whether our codes, the materials we're building in, to check that it's not too fragile, that it's suitable. So I think that study is due to be released at some point. I mean, it's fairly soon. I think it's being validated, the results, to make sure that it's right. It'll be looking at whether or not our current codes are appropriate. Looking at the earthquake risk, our vulnerabilities in light of things like those sinkholes, and we have a reputation, I think, in Cayman for having very strong buildings. We do. A lot of people reinforce concrete. We remain low-lying. Are we building in the right ways? You talked earlier on about the sea captains, the way they build their houses, often on stilts. Obviously that allows the sea to go through, reduces the likelihood of erosion, and when you've got rising sea levels, that's something we want. We want our beaches. We want our rights of way along the beach. But I don't know. I'm probably going on.
No. This is where I think these types of discussions, hopefully, as I'm listening to others, and that it's not about critiquing nor criticizing. It's about making commentary that is hopefully helpful and get people to start to think. And anybody who feels slighted, for a second, step back and go, well, is that a personal affront, or is that something that has been, not sufficient address? What do you think, Mark? I mean, we leverage our resources, our talent, and the like.
Yeah, I think it's critical, and one of the things that we're trying to emphasize in HMCI is to ensure that individuals at home build their capacity in terms of their response mechanism. And I think that's very important. And what I would have seen over the years, in particular, after the earthquake in 2020, would have seen a lot of persons express a lot of interest in having information at their disposal. And there's a great push, and then we saw the pandemic thereafter. There's a heavy need on having the right information.
Right.
And leveraging that in various mediums and ways can really assist the public.
But let's go back to preparation, and I recognize, less than 5 minutes of this discussion. I really, really appreciate not just coming on, but what you've been doing thus far in this initiative. Hurricane, we're told, I don't know how many of us heed, please, don't wait till everyone is coming to go to do your shopping, to do your preparations. My uncle, long before it was even HMCI, he would buy, a little bit each time. And, for the next 6 months when it was not hurricane season, he was consuming what he had bought. But that was what they knew. They understood that, right? We don't do that so much now. An earthquake, we're panicking in the streets. We're genuinely going looking for our children at schools. We're worried about everything. We're jamming up whatever communications infrastructure is there to get through, and we're frustrated. I mean, easier said than done. Human behavior is not as...
Very reactive.
I like how you put that.
Yeah. That's how we are by nature at times. We tend to be more reactive than proactive. But I think, as you alluded to earlier, I think there is, since the pandemic and other events globally, would have definitely seen a significant improvement in how persons are more aware of what's happening. I'm sure there's been earthquake outside or our region itself, and persons are notifying us to say, hey, this earthquake will it impact us, will there be a tsunami, so forth. So I think there's a definite significant increase in terms of the awareness.
All right. As we close our discussion, first to you, Mr. Vernon, what do you want us to know? What do you want to share with us that are most pressing?
Well, as I alluded to earlier, it's a sense of awareness. Again, we have shows like this where we can come on and talk. But Simon said earlier, invite HMCI out to your home, not necessarily your home, but if you want information, invite us out to your place of work, and we can certainly do a presentation, have a discussion, do a site analysis for you to give you some information on how to build a good emergency plan for a multi-hazard event should it impact you. I always say to have, as an individual, have a preparedness bag or a go bag with your medications, different things that you will need, rope, travel documents and so on, either in your car or at home. Train up your kids, and as I mentioned earlier, the information is just at your fingertips. Yes, we have sites like Wikipedia that people can go and change the information for ill purposes, but there's so much more information that you can find online, and if you check 2 or 3 sites and the information on 2 are consistent, then chances are you can figure out and use your common sense and realize which one is guiding you in the wrong direction. But aside from that, if you don't want to venture out on your own blindly, certainly visit our website at Cayman Prepared, and we'll give you some guidance from that point of view. So, thank you.
This is where I think it helps us, and more and more. Well, Simon, your sort of remit as public education. You've been in the schools, you've been in our businesses, you've been on the airwaves. You've been a regular fixture here, so thanks very much for that.
It's happened me so many times.
Always been helpful, though. Mm-hmm. So, well, thanks, man. What do you want us to do with that?
I think, Mark said it's buildings that are potentially the hazard for the earthquakes. Mm-hmm. A lot of our codes are minimums, minimum height above sea level, mm-hmm. or 5 foot above, minimum setbacks. I think people might start considering their homes not just in terms of wind speed, water going into them, but how can we build them more robustly to deal with an earthquake event. Mm-hmm. And though the current stock of houses is very strong, and the fact that they're built largely out of reinforced concrete does make them quite resilient to earthquakes, but it's possible to build more resiliently and more robustly for earthquakes. So if you're considering building yourself, you might want to approach somebody like a Garth Arch or a David Shempu, one of these structural engineers, to get advice on what you can do to build your home a little stronger to withstand a strong event. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we are there. We want you to reach out to us if you've got a church, a school, a business, a government agency. It's our mission, and we welcome the opportunity, and we try to make it fun.
Well, we tried today. I don't know what tomorrow will be like.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for laughing at me, but thanks for sharing information.
It's always
only if you wish, Mark. If you have a final point, if not, we will come back again.
I'll just leave a few words. I mean, I always say it's important. Nobody plans to fail. We simply fail to plan. So planning is very important, and we just keep pushing that message.
Yeah, man. That's it. You guys are a phenomenal team over at HNCI, and actually your director, I think, you guys do great stuff. And I'm hopeful that the community will go alongside. And if there's a certain team in our neighborhood, reach out to the people. If you're not a partner of it, we can join forces. That strength and safety and security that comes in numbers, we know the resilience. So thanks very much.
True. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
For our listeners, going to pause, take the news break. And when we return, let's have a few minutes of open line. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman,
the voice,
the heart, the soul of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. Health City Cayman Islands has been named as Gold Corporate Guardian for the East End Primary School Parent-Teacher Association for 2022 after making a $10,000 CI donation to support the group's activities for the year ahead. In international news, Russia's EU ambassador has told the BBC his country still believes diplomacy can help de-escalate the crisis over Ukraine. Vladimir Chizov said Moscow had no intention of invading anybody, but warned it was important not to provoke Russia into changing its mind. It comes after a flurry of diplomatic activity on Monday and Tuesday. Russia has repeatedly denied any plans to invade Ukraine. A manhunt is underway in Pakistan for a faith healer who allegedly hammered a nail into a pregnant woman's head. Initially, she told doctors that she had carried out the act herself, but later admitted a faith healer who had claimed he could guarantee she gave birth to a baby boy was responsible. The woman approached the faith healer after her husband threatened to leave her if she gave birth to another girl. In some poorer South Asian countries, a son is often believed to offer better long-term financial security to parents than daughters do, and this gives rise to exploitative practices, often from so-called faith healers. Animal charity the RSPCA has taken West Ham defender Kurt Zouma's pet cats away after videos emerged on social media of him kicking and slapping one of them. The two cats are now in RSPCA care. The Premier League clubs say they have fined Zouma the maximum amount possible, and the fee will be donated to animal welfare charities. More than 150,000 people have signed an online petition calling for Zouma to be prosecuted, while one of West Ham's sponsors, Vitality, has suspended its deal with the club. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Subway makes it easy for you to stay on top of your health and wellness goals with our Fresh Fit menu options. Choose from 5 Fresh Fit Subway sandwiches with only 450 calories or less per 6-inch sub. Turkey breast, veggie, oven-roasted chicken, Black Forest ham, sweet onion chicken teriyaki, or make your 6-inch Fresh Fit sub into a salad or wrap prepared with fresh vegetables. For a full menu and nutritional information, visit subway.ky. Subway, eat fresh.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
How do I lose weight and keep it off?
I can't just eat salads. Have you tasted my family's rundown? And oh, what about the turtle meat?
These are common questions I hear from people when it comes to weight loss. Learn how to lead a healthier lifestyle, the one you desire, and successfully manage your weight with my proven step-by-step process and my new book, New Shoes, A Journey of Self-Discovery.
Working with Donna has helped me create a healthier lifestyle. Old habits are no longer a challenge. If you're looking for help in managing life, reducing weight, and maintaining a lifestyle that fits your wellness goals, Donna Mitchell is the coach you need.
New Shoes, A Journey of Self-Discovery has been tried and tested on hundreds of participants in the Cayman Islands and is available on Amazon and Kindle. Order your copy today. Visit inspiredwithdonna.com for more details.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks very much for joining us on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon. I want to again thanks our friends from Hazard Management, HMCI, and have a look at the website caymanprepared.ky and get informed, not just about hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes, but all of the potential natural disasters that could impact us. And as we look increasingly at possible careers, and let's look within the sciences and in particular the medical field. Let's look at journalism. Let's look also at these types of careers and skill sets that we can deploy within the public service that help us to build greater capacity within our communities and be of greater service to our society. I say that to share that even if we are truly have that calling to be an entrepreneur, we want to be the captains of our own ships and work in the private sector as opposed to in a government affiliated agency, or if we're sufficiently grounded that we can be independently wealthy and otherwise not have to necessarily have a job or an employer, well, we have a resource that it is us. So let's deploy that and partner with our neighbors in our wider community and other agencies and ensure that we have greater capacity to build greater resilience within our communities, whether it's through the CERT program, whether you volunteer and be a member of the Red Cross or some of the other charities or NGOs and the like. Because at the end of the day, if you think about it, let's just quickly go back to the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Ivan. We found that immediately we're all in this together. That was probably unlike what they say now. One time that we were, and for a short time we worked together. We cleared the roads, we checked on our neighbors. Most of us, for a time, understood that the importance was the life of each other. Some of us probably were more concerned about the gold that we had in our safes, the wealth that we may have had elsewhere. But for, I would say, the majority, was to make sure everybody was okay. Did you have food and water? Are you safe? Are you injured? So if we can ensure that we have that resource and we work together, then we don't have to wait for a government entity to tell us to do something. Or we don't have to wait until some resource comes from somewhere, whether it's the district over or somehow from an external agency. We have it within ourselves. And the more training and uplifting our skills and the upskilling of ourselves, the better. Now, some of us have the skill set, but we need to be sort of lifted up in the sense of the confidence that we have in our ability and the willingness to step out and put it to good use without being prompted or told by other people that, hey, you need to step up, this is something that you can do. This is within your wheelhouse. And as we take this caller, a quick reminder that we're going to end the show a little bit earlier today to facilitate something fundamental so that we can make tomorrow's show even better. But let's go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, young man.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
I'm very good. I have no clue what the subject is because I am visiting a friend of mine, but I tried to get on this morning to OC and it was too busy. But I need to say something publicly because it's been bothering me since last week. Can I go ahead?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're listening to you.
Okay. I lived 17 years in Jamaica. I went to primary school, I went to high school, and I went to college there. And I worked there for a short time. But I never tried to... I learned everything I could about Jamaica. I knew about the Morant Bay Rebellion. I know who the prime ministers were over the years. But I have found that foreigners, and don't get me wrong, I'm not against foreigners, because that's what makes us. But when they come to this country, this little island of paradise that we have, they need to learn about the culture. They need to learn about the happenings and why we are where we are at because of past things that happened, like the seafarers and other people. Now, last year, as we did this year, we have a calendar each year. Each year depicts different things. And last year, the now Minister of Tourism assisted us. We were out at the end of Linford Pearson Highway selling tickets before dark in the morning on a Thursday. Last year we did it on a Friday. Last week we did it on a Thursday. And a certain man I know he had to be a foreigner because I had not seen him before. Plus, he spoke with a foreign accent. He tells me, he said, get off of the road, you're holding up traffic. Now, if I was in my normal mode of apparatus when I was building houses, that man would have not liked what I would have said to him. But it only proves to me that the people just come here and they just, I call it rape the system, because they get so much of a big salary, they get this and they get that, and they never know nothing about what they came here and found. And it's behoven on them, not on us, to learn about our background and our culture. So that's what I wanted to get off of my chest, because that really bothered me. I mean, how can I am a Caymanian born and bred, and someone who comes here as a foreigner to earn a living would say to me, get off the road, you're holding up traffic. My God, I mean, what is wrong with people who come here, you know?
Right. Well, I'm sorry that's been, unfortunately, an experience that many of us have had to endure recently, and perhaps by you sharing that, maybe that person or others who may have done something likewise can reflect and, you know, at least internally apologize. But for what it's worth, you know, hopefully you won't have that again. And all the best to you, sir. Safe travels, all right?
Okay, my brother, all the very best.
God bless, sir. God bless. All right, let's take one final call. And as we shared, we're going to exit just a bit earlier today. This will be the final call. Welcome, good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Captain. What's up?
Wow, excellent, sir. Blessings. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine.
Good to hear.
I was paying attention earlier to the two gentlemen that was speaking about in case of disaster with earthquakes and what have you.
Yes, sir.
Good. For too long, more than me, as Caymanians, indigenous Caymanians, have seen that we have lost our way. The interpretation they got now of what should have been years ago is so wrong. And I'm not here to really castigate anyone, but I'm here to state facts. When I went in through here, if I remember rightly, my property is, let's say, 700 yards from the beach. It's all, or mostly, sandy ground all through. I have not put any, or very little, if any, marl into my property. Meaning when I went in through here, I had supposedly what we would say flooding for maybe half an hour. The water came up maybe a foot in some areas. And by the time I look around, it was all gone because it was filtered with the sand.
Right.
Is it not a fact that people come here to get their feet into the sand? They always talk about, I want to get my foot in the sand, I want to go to the beach. How can we feel so positive that we allow these people not only building on the beach, but all of the fancy paywalls they put around the hotels and other things, and absolutely there's no place for the water to go. Don't talk about deep well. That is a joke. You know, deep well could never accommodate the flow of water when you have like a hurricane. What I'm saying fully and meaningfully is a lot of these people, a lot of these buildings should have had sand or gravel apart from, okay, some place to walk, you could probably pave that. But the whole area paved off with, you know, luxurious pavers and all that, no place where the water can go. So what are we expecting? All of these geniuses that we employ and say they got the answer. My friend, we have lost it, and it's not coming back. The only redemption we can hope for right now is the mercy of the good Almighty, that He might have mercy on us, because anything else, I about to say it's a failure. So I'm sorry that I couldn't keep up, because I know you want to get off the show. But anyway, have a pleasant afternoon.
And to you, sir. Talk to you very much sooner than later. And to the caller, well, that point shouldn't just stay there. So let it resonate with us in a meaningful way. Thank you all for allowing us to exit just a bit early this afternoon. Join us again tomorrow. Please join us for all of our programming. And tomorrow morning, we keep you informed and engaged and set the stage for the talk today. So until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.